everybody, it is Steve, your friendly neighborhood lawn gnome. Welcome back to another episode of Stats, Trends, and Picks over here on That's Comical. And if you're watching and it happens to be a Wednesday, happy new comic book day. Well, I'm definitely very excited to discuss what happened in this past month when it comes to my top predictions, to see how it all went, and more importantly, what's in store for May, especially considering the fact that nerds should be extremely excited because May 4th, which is of course Star Wars Day, is also Free Comic Book Day in 2024, so it's going to be a double dose of geekdom that I think we're all very excited for and anticipated for. I myself am just very excited to put my daughter in a little Star Wars shirt that she got when she was born, and she's finally big enough to actually fit into it. So just the fact that I'm going to be able to put her in a Star Wars shirt this year and have her enjoy the special day without even knowing it is going to be great. I actually really wanted to take her to the comic book store with me, but it's not going to happen. But you can only get so much. But anyway, let's get right into it. Let's take a look at the numbers. So it was a decent month. It was 47 books. That's the most books that I purchased in a single month. And now I'm looking back at a question that was asked to me at my local comic shop when the new year rolled around, and that was, are you going to read more new comics, or are you going to read a lot more new comics? Well, based on what I said at the time, I'm going to officially walk that back and say I'm going to be reading a lot of new comics, and that's just because of the fact that there's a lot of interesting things happening in the world of comic books, and it's also a lot of stuff that I want to bring to the channel just because there's so much to talk about in regards to specific things and topics that I think are very relevant. But what I'm also very happy to say is that I believe that what I said about this year being a very pivotal year for comics, particularly in the indie circuit, I think that my prophecy is sort of coming true because we're sort of where we were anticipating to be in regards to the indie books, and there's a lot of positive feedback with the Energon universe and the fact that it's picking up and continuing to a whole new story arc series, to the fact that the Ghost Machine universe started, and we got a lot of positive stuff there, and we just got some more announcements from Dark Horse that Mark Millar is starting to put some of his work out into print and continuing his Miller World stuff, so that's very exciting. But in regards to the numbers, DC definitely dropped a little bit, but that's also because of the fact that there really wasn't much in DC that I was sort of interested in, and I'm really impressed to see where Marvel is right now, and the indie is slowly climbing up, as I thought it would be, and Image, of course, took the top spot. But what I am going to basically say, guys, is here's what you're going to see during the summer months. You're going to see DC Comics shoot up. You're going to see Marvel take a massive dive after June. And you're going to see Image continue to stay high, and the other conglomerate is going to start to grow. There's a very good chance that the other conglomerate might end up taking the top spot a few times towards the end of the summer. And that's because of the fact that I am anticipating to get a lot of comics from Dark Horse, Dynamite, and even get a couple more from a company that I never purchased from before, which is Mad Cave Studios. And you'll see why in just a little bit. Then when we take a look at the percentages, as you can see, over 30% of my purchasing went to Image Comics, and Marvel was not too far behind. And then when we take a look at the graph, once again, it's still not exciting. It's very mundane, very flat, but what I'm very impressed to see is take a look at where Marvel and DC were. They were pretty much neck and neck, and then DC went up, and then Marvel went down, then Marvel went up, and DC went down, and now they are pretty much just about where they should be, and I'm really curious to see where they would be in May. But the other conglomerate started really low, and it's slowly creeping up. And the reason why I say you're not going to see much from Marvel and a lot more from DC is because Free Comic Book Day is going to show us what's coming. Outside of the Ultimate Universe comic books, there's going to be a new title coming out in June, as well as any mini-series that I am interested in reading. The only ongoing Marvel series that I'm going to be reading moving into the summer is Philip Kennedy Johnson's The Incredible Hulk. I'm officially deciding that I'm dumping Thor, and after I finish reading X-Men 35, which is the last issue of X-Men's Krakoa era, I'm finished with X-Men. I am not interested in anything new that's coming out in the world of any of the ongoing titles, whether it's Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, or Daredevil, I'm not interested. So Hulk, thank goodness, is still going to be sticking around. I'm going to check out the third story arc, but will it wow me? Because the last story arc was alright, but I don't know. So outside of any miniseries or maxi series, I just don't see myself getting anything new from Marvel. But in regards to DC, there was a big announcement of the summer event, the DC Absolute Power. That's going to involve Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the Absolute Power main title, and I'm still going to be reading Green Lantern. Unfortunately, I found out that Philip Kennedy Johnson's Green Lantern War Journal is finishing after 12 issues. Really sad about that, but I'm glad that I stuck all the way out to the end, because I thought it was a really great story, and all the Golden Age books are going to be coming to an end very soon, so I also am going to say that after Absolute Power is done, I think DC is going to take a dive too, because I don't really see any interest in what DC is planning to create. I don't really know what the ongoing series are going to have. I'm also going to stop reading Joshua Williamson's Batman and Robin. I don't know how much longer Batman Superman World's Finest is going. From what I'm hearing, this may be the last story arc that we're right in right now, so I'm not sure. But I am going to say that indie comics is all the rage for me. And we're going to take a look at where we were. So how did we end with the April predictions? So we're going to start off with my top prediction for the first week of April. And I gave it to Rick Remender's The Sacrificers, issue number 7 over at Image Comics. I was really excited for this book to come back because that first arc was incredible. I didn't really like this issue. I just found it very, very boring. I am hoping that things will change because I really don't want to see myself dumping this series before it ends, because that first arc was incredible. And the funny thing is, he's also writing a brand new series called Napalm Lullaby, and I'm already 2 issues in. I need to reread those because I don't know if I like it or don't like it, and I don't want to dump it just yet. So I really want to check out the next issue of Napalm Lullaby, as well as reread the first 2. But no, The Sacrificers did not make it, and I ended up giving it to a book that I was excited to read regardless. One of the books from the new Ghost Machine universe over at Image, created by Geoff Johns, and it was Red Coat by Geoff Johns, and beautiful art by Brian Hitch. This was National Treasure meets Pirates of the Caribbean. There was so much to love about this book. Was Geiger good? Yes. Was Rook Exodus good? Yes. But Red Coat was so lighthearted and fun. I just saw myself even laughing while I was reading this book. So I'm very excited to continue all the current Ghost Machine titles, but very, very excited to see what happens with Red Coat issue number 2. For the second week of April, I was anticipating a possible tie between Cullen Bunn's Monsters Are My Business number 1 over at Dark Horse Comics, which is his new 4-issue miniseries, and Tony Fleeks's Uncanny Valley number 1 of 6 over at Boom Studios. These were both great issues, but there was no tie. Uncanny Valley number 1 took the top spot. This was exactly what I was hoping that it would be, and I'm so glad I picked up this book. I mean, Tony Fleeks is becoming one of my favorite writers. I'm currently reading Feral, which is wonderful. Issue number 2 was exciting, but this was like Who Framed Roger Rabbit for me. A boy who has no idea about his past, and he suddenly finds out that he is half cartoon character. That's pretty darn awesome, and I'm just really excited to see where this story's going to go with issue number 2. For the third week of April, I ended up predicting correctly and gave it to Batman Superman World's Finest, issue number 26 by Mark Waid and art by Dan Mora over at DC Comics. It was Mr. Mxyzptlk and Batmite coming out of the 5th dimension to get Batman and Superman to say that they need help. I was anticipating nothing but fun, and I loved the first issue of this new arc, and I'm just so excited to see what happens in the next issue. For the last week of April 2024, I was anticipating giving it over at Image Comics to Kevin Eastman's Drawing Blood number 1 of 12. This is the first thing that I know of Kevin Eastman outside of Ninja Turtles, so of course I was very excited. And I did not like this first issue, guys. I don't understand. I was anticipating just a fun introduction, and I don't like dumping books after the first issue because there's gotta be something good here. So I am gonna wait. I'm gonna check out issue 2. And if I don't like issue 2, I unfortunately am not going to continue reading this series, guys. I feel bad about it because this is freaking Kevin Eastman. This is Ninja Turtles glory, but I don't know what it was about this book that just didn't hit. I found out that I wasn't the only one. There were a lot of people that were excited for this book and didn't care for it, so I want to give it one more shot. So when issue number 2 comes out, I'm going to read it and I'm going to see what I feel about it. So I was way off on that prediction, but you know something? 50-50 for April 2024, not bad. But I did give it to a book that I was really excited to read. And that was from Mad Cave Studios. I had never picked up a book from Mad Cave. I know that a lot of people love Nottingham, and that series is just about to wrap up. But when it was announced that Mad Cave Studios was going to be making an ongoing series of one of my favorite franchises, Dick Tracy, with Dick Tracy #1 by Mark Marici, I was extremely excited to see a Dick Tracy comic book because he's one of the OGs when it comes to comic strips, and I love me a Dick Tracy story, even though I'm not the biggest fan of noir. It can hit me, it can miss me, but when I read this book, it was definitely a little bit more mature, but it still brought back all the nostalgia of the 1990 Warren Beatty film and the old cartoon from the 1960s that I watched on reruns when I was a kid, and I just loved seeing Dick Tracy in the yellow trench coat and seeing some of his famous named villains like Mumbles and Flat Top, and so, yeah, this was fun. I had a great time with this book, and there were some people that said that while it was good, they didn't want another detective story, but maybe it's because of the fact that I don't read that many detective stories that I was really on board with this one. But yeah, Dick Tracy #1 was fantastic, and I'm so excited for issue number 2. So what's in store for May 2024? Well, guys, as we all know, the first Saturday of May is Free Comic Book Day, and I am very excited for some of the things that I'm going to be picking up. Some brand new titles are starting up from the indie circuit, but also, once again, I think I did this last year, Marvel and DC are going to be fighting for the top spot in terms of anticipation, because we have DC's Absolute Power starting up, but we also have a Free Comic Book Day Marvel issue that is going to give us what's going on in Spider-Man, and I already know what's going on in the ongoing Spider-Man series, and I am not interested, but in this Free Comic Book Day Marvel book, we're also going to see what's in store for the Ultimate Universe. And outside of the ongoing Hulk series from Philip Kennedy Johnson, I am still reading the Ultimate Universe books. I really am enjoying Ultimate Spider-Man. Ultimate X-Men is very original and unique. Not sure about what's going to happen with Ultimate Black Panther. I have a feeling after the first arc, I may not continue. It's just got to wow me because it started off strong and it's fallen a little flat. But there's also interesting things about what's going to be happening with the Ultimates book. So very excited to see what's going to happen with both of these companies with their very anticipated summer events. So in regards to this being Free Comic Book Day month, it is also a 5-week New Comic Book Day month, so more comic books will be purchased this month, and let's take a look at where my top predictions are going to be. For the first week, I am going to be giving it back to Boom Studios and Cullen Bunn, Ghost Lore issue number 10. I'm hoping that this ends up being what I'm hoping for it to be, because Ghost Lore has been one of my favorite reads for the past couple of months, even though it rarely takes the top spot. But Cullen Bunn has been doing an amazing job with Ghost Lore, and we're reaching the last 3 issues. So I will still shout from the rooftops as this is a book to read, guys, and it's been very, very strong. Very excited to see where we're going to go with the issue number 10, and then issue number 11, which will be the penultimate and the finale of issue number 12. For the second week of May 2024, I am also going to be giving it to another series that is wrapping up, the mini-series over at IDW by Patrick Horvath, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, issue number 6. This has still been my top read of 2024, and I am very curious to see where it's going to end. The penultimate issue was not my favorite, but I understood what it was doing. It was setting us up for the grand finale. So I think what I'm not just excited about, along with the ending, I want to know if there's a future for this franchise, because Patrick Horvath, I saw, is still relatively new, and I'd like to see him do more projects, especially if there's something like this, but I'm anticipating this to be a strong ending regardless. For the third week of May 2024, I am going to give it back to Boom Studios and go back to Tony Fleeks's Uncanny Valley issue number 2. You saw my enthusiasm for the first issue. I mean, look at the cover. That background is even more exciting to me than the first issue's cover. So I am really excited to see where this story is going to go. For the fourth week of May 2024, I'm going to be giving it to a book that I did not hear about until a couple of weeks ago. Joe Casey is a name that I know. I haven't read a lot of him, unless I might be wrong about that. I had to go check out my archives. I'm pretty sure I have a Joe Casey title somewhere in my collection, but he is creating an ongoing series, at least I think it's an ongoing series, over at Image called Blood Squad 7. And it is supposed to be a take on what Image comics were like in the 90s. So this is sort of a take on Youngblood. I mean, the print and the title, it looks very Youngbloodish. So I am anticipating a little nostalgia factor here and not necessarily using copywritten characters. So I'm really curious to see what this story is going to be about, and more importantly, where does it take place in the Image universe? Is it original, or is it part of the old Image universe, and will we possibly get some appearances from famous classic Image characters? Really excited to see where this goes. Joe Casey is also going to be starting up a Johnny Quest title over at Dynamite, and I'm getting the free comic book issue of it. I'm really excited to see his take on this classic franchise as well, because I'm a huge Johnny Quest fan. And for the fifth and final week of May 2024, I am giving it over to Marvel Comics. It was very interesting to actually see Marvel show up in a top prediction grouping of indie books, but I will say that one of the strongest things that I have been reading this year is Chip Zdarsky's miniseries Avengers Twilight, and this is the final issue. It was a very well done comic book. I really enjoy the atmosphere. It's very Kingdom Come. I don't think that people will ever go into the future saying this was Marvel's version of Kingdom Come, but I really enjoyed what it did. I enjoyed the story very much, and I'm really excited just based on the cover alone and the cliffhanger from issue number 5 where we're gonna go. And I'm just glad to read something like Avengers Twilight, because Chip Zdarsky has been getting a lot of flack for what he's been doing over at Batman, but I still appreciate him as a writer. I know he has the ability to write great stories, and Avengers Twilight is living proof. So that's going to wrap up another episode of Stats, Trends, and Picks. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I would love to hear what some of your top reads were in April. Let me know if I missed anything. And what are some of your predictions for May of 2024? What do you think are going to be some of the best books? And more importantly, what are you anticipating to snag on Free Comic Book Day? Are you going to get some really good free books? Or are you also anticipating buying some stuff from your local stores? Don't forget to give your stores some actual purchases on Free Comic Book Day, besides just going up and getting some free comics. So in the meantime, everybody, I will see you in the next one.